My dear friend, amidst economic news reports filled with the gloom of inflation and crises, your family is still proud that both spouses have stable jobs with desirable salaries. You feel like you are winning against the system, protecting the family budget by doubling the income source and working twice as hard. But the truth is, you have just stepped into one of the most cruel and sophisticated psychological traps of modern capitalism. You are absolutely not winning. You have just sacrificed the entire vitality and lifetime of your whole family to the economic machine. And you smiled as you paid for that very deception. Let your mind turn back time, returning to a peaceful sunset afternoon in the year 1970. The image of a standard family at that time is a picture we now only see in old documentary films. A man working as a postman, or a machine operator at a component manufacturing plant, was perfectly capable of shouldering the entire finances for a family of 5. He owned a spacious suburban house, a car parked in the garage, could afford to pay tuition fees for his children, and still had enough left over to take the whole family on vacation once a year. The wife stayed at home, managed the household, took care of the children, and maintained a true home. That was not extreme wealth, but a solid and peaceful middle-class standard of living. Now, open your eyes and face the cruel reality of the year 2026. The picture has been completely flipped. Your family has 2 adults. Both possess expensive college degrees, and both hold middle management positions at large corporations. Both you and your spouse leave the house before the sun even rises. Face the smog of traffic jams, and exhaust your energy for more than 50 hours a week in the workplace. The total income of your family is a massive number on paper, far exceeding the combined salaries of your parents' generation. However, whenever the end of the month arrives, a suffocating feeling surrounds your mind. After paying off the mortgage, utility bills, childcare costs, installments for 2 cars, and countless other living expenses, the balance in your account returns to near zero. Confusion begins to invade your brain. Where has your money gone? Why does the labor of 2 intellectual people, working strenuously in the modern economy, only exchange for a struggling life scraping by every month, inferior to even a single worker from half a century ago? The answer does not lie in your poor financial management, or because you buy too many expensive cups of coffee. The answer lies in a restructuring of the entire macroeconomic economy, a perfect trap called the dual income. The greatest deception of the 21st century is that the system has succeeded in substituting concepts. The fact that both spouses entered the labor market was once praised as a great step forward for liberation and autonomy. In terms of human rights, that is absolutely correct. But in terms of economics, capitalism views this event through an incredibly cold and cruel lens. The system realized that we just got a massive new labor force. And more importantly, households now have doubled income sources. When every family has 2 people working, the overall purchasing power of the entire society suddenly skyrockets. And according to the brutal laws of supply and demand of the market, the prices of core assets are immediately adjusted upward to fully absorb that excess income. The most fierce stage of this battle is the real estate market. Remember, the value of a house in the suburbs is not determined by the number of bricks or cement that make it up. Its price is determined by the quality of the public school system in that area, and the security level of the neighborhood. When your family has 2 income sources, you are willing to pay a slightly higher price to compete for a house in an area with good schools for your children. But the problem is, the neighboring family also has 2 income sources, and they are also willing to push the price higher. Real estate becomes a life or death bidding war among dual income households. You are no longer competing with men who work to support their wives and children like in 1970. You are bidding against couples with the same high salaries as you. The inevitable result is that house prices in middle-class areas have skyrocketed to delusional levels, far exceeding all normal inflation indices. The entire salary of the second wife or husband has essentially been thrown straight into the fire of the real estate market, just to buy back the exact same social status that our fathers and grandfathers once bought with only a single salary. You work frantically twice as hard, not to advance to a higher class, but only to avoid being pushed down to the bottom tier by the system. But the drain does not stop at the property deed. The dual income trap also brings a series of massive fixed costs that a single income family never has to bear. When both spouses are absent from home from morning to night, you have to start paying for services that were previously provided for free inside the home. The most horrific expense is childcare services. In many large cities, daycare for 2 children can be as expensive as, or even exceed, the monthly mortgage payment. You have to break your back working at the office, just to take that exact money to pay a stranger to take care of your children. Next is commuting costs, as having 2 people working in 2 different directions requires the family to own, maintain, and insure 2 separate cars. Income tax is also a cruel, invisible blade. When the total income of the couple is combined, you are immediately pushed into a much higher tax bracket. The tax system never evaluates your hardship, it only coldly extracts a larger percentage from the total amount of money you bring home. Added to that are countless other invisible incurring costs. Because you are too exhausted after a workday, you no longer have the time to personally cook a meal. You are forced to use expensive food delivery apps, hire house cleaning services, and buy luxurious office clothes to serve your job. When adding all these mandatory fixed costs together, the truth is exposed nakedly. Your family's second income source is almost completely wiped out. The actual free wealth that you can freely use is, ironically, lower than even a single income household from decades ago. However, the peak of cruelty in the dual income trap does not lie in the spending numbers. It lies in the fact that the system has silently stripped away the single and most solid safety net of a family, which is the non-working spouse. Let's make a cold comparison. In 1970, if the husband unfortunately lost his job or fell ill, the family still had an unturned trump card. The stay-at-home wife could immediately step into the labor market to find a temporary job, shouldering the finances until the storm passed. Their household might have to cut back on spending, but they were rarely pushed to the brink of bankruptcy, because their fixed costs were designed based on exactly one single income source. But for your family in 2026, the situation is a tightening noose. Because you have used both income sources to take out a loan for an expensive house, pay installments for 2 cars, and maintain your current standard of living, 100% of your family's cash flow has been locked into fixed debts. There is not a single space to breathe. Both you and your spouse are deployed to the maximum on the front lines of the labor force. There is no one left in the rear to act as a reserve card. If just one of you is unfortunately laid off due to company downsizing, or suffers a sudden medical accident and cannot go to work, your family's financial structure will collapse immediately. You cannot return half of the house to the bank. You cannot ask the school to cut the tuition fee in half. You are exactly one single incident away from bankruptcy. This massive psychological pressure weighs heavily on every nerve cell of those who are parents. It turns you into obedient hostages of the corporate system. You dare not quit your job no matter how toxic the work environment is. You dare not demand benefits. And you accept all exploitation by the employers, just because of the extreme fear of not being able to pay the bills at the end of the month. The system does not need to use whips to rule. It uses the very real estate mortgage bills themselves to tie your feet. The commercialization of the family is the most painful sentence that the dual income trap brings. The home, which used to be a safe shelter, has now become a cold transit station for 2 labor machines. All core functions of the family are cut out and traded on the market. The care of the elderly is pushed to nursing homes. The education and nurturing of children's souls are left to industrial daycare centers. The system has been extremely successful in deconstructing the traditional family. It turns wives and husbands into independent producing individuals, extracts massive amounts of taxes from their labor, and then sells back to them the services that families once self-supplied at exorbitant prices. They lull you to sleep with empty slogans about equality, about brilliant careers, and about a busy modern lifestyle. But behind that sparkling velvet curtain, capitalism is smiling triumphantly. It has doubled the labor force that can be exploited, doubled the amount of consumer goods sold, and simultaneously pushed the risk of complete bankruptcy onto the individuals. You are running on a financial treadmill set at maximum speed, sweating profusely, exhausted, and extremely stressed, but in reality, you are still standing in the same place. The prosperity you think you possess is just an illusion inflated by credit. And it will shatter the moment your labor machine misses a beat. Realizing the nature of this trap is not a denial of anyone's right and freedom to work. It is a necessary awakening to re-evaluate your entire survival strategy in an economy that has absolutely no compassion. When you still blindly believe that earning more money at any cost will solve the problem, you will sink even deeper into the fixed cost trap. The only way out does not lie in working harder, but lies in the cold refusal to participate in the status races set up by the system. You must ruthlessly cut off meaningless fixed costs. Refuse to buy houses that exceed the affordability of a single income source. And re-establish a safety net for your own home. True wealth is not about how many digits you possess on your paycheck. True wealth is the ability to control your own time, and the capacity to survive firmly even when the economic machine out there stops spinning. The entire autopsy you have just followed is based completely on historical data and sociological observations for purely educational purposes. Please note that this content is not financial advice or a personal investment guide. Every financial position is a unique story with different variables. Therefore, consulting with qualified professionals is a necessary step before you make any decisions related to your assets. If you do not want to wait until the decline becomes irreversible to start being aware, please subscribe to the channel and join us as we continue to dissect the hidden corners of the system in the following content. Wishing you always maintain your sanity and peace amidst a world full of volatility.